wanted to go back. But it took a long time before I actually reconnected and went back. Then I started my career in Israel, and I started working with my friend Jonathan Geffen, who I mentioned before, the poet. And not only did I perform with him, but he also mentored me and showed me lots of poetry, great poetry that directed me to. And then I decided to dedicate my life writing music to poetry, and my career really. And so many years later, it was 25 years, I decided to go back to Spain, make the connection. I hadn't been back in all these years, and I wanted to write some music with Spanish poets, writers, but I had no idea who to turn to. I had no connections. I didn't know anybody there really. Childhood friends, but they didn't know anybody in the music world, the poetry world. So I rented a little apartment, and I booked myself some shows in this very, very small local club in the old part of Madrid, thinking I'd play and maybe my name will get around and people will come and I'll meet. And sure enough, after the second or third show, as I was sitting in my dressing room and just relaxing, and after the show there was a knock on the door, and just like out of a fairy tale, in walks this elderly man with a long white beard and long white hair, and he looked just out of a theatrical production. But he walked in and he kind of said in a deep Spanish voice, he said, "Hola." And I had this magical voice. And he says, "Me llamo," what was his name? "Pablo Guerrero." His name. So I jumped really, because I couldn't believe that was the name. It was the name of a singer-songwriter, that one of the few that I'd listened to when I was living in Spain as a teenager. So I didn't even think twice. I didn't even say, "Thank you for coming, how nice to meet you." I just said, "Would you write with me?" I was so eager to get started. And he was startled, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, no." And he explained he just doesn't work with anybody. He just likes to be alone. But anyway, he invited me to have coffee at his house. So a couple of days later, I went over to his house, and as he was preparing the coffee, he said, "You know, I've been thinking about what you asked for, and maybe we can try something." So he sat me at a table, we had a coffee, he sat in front of me, and he pulled out a pad and a pen, and he said, "Just tell me about yourself. Just tell me stories, anything." And I was really not prepared. I mean, I never worked like that, but hey, I don't even know where this is heading to, so I started talking to this stranger, telling him stories. And before I knew it, I was telling stories I'd never really told anybody. And there was a good reason why. These were some really personal, deep, and real dark stories. And he got really depressed. He just said to me, "Basta." And at some point, he just sent me home. He said, then he finished the coffee. I was like,